Big J,
Yeah, man.
man.
Rivalry
Are in the
week.
building. Rivalry round two, brother. What's good? What's good?
Neither of their prospects long term in the playoffs, I fears.
Right. My God, man. We had such a crazy season. And who would have thought that we ended with our teams deciding the division, bro? Crazy.
If you'd asked even a month ago, you'd be like, well, here the Steelers go again. But if you'd said a month ago, you would have been like, Steelers looking like they might get to double digit wins for once, right? At least look legit with 10 wins, right? In the playoffs. Nope. Like, I mean, they might,
Crazy.
yeah, right. They're still gonna end up, what is it, like 9-8 if they go into the playoffs.
Yeah, it'll be 9-8. Yeah, it's weird. It's been a weird season for the AFC North, which usually was leading a lot
Right.
of
There was
of
always some
league. Yeah,
separation at the top. Whatever team was
yeah,
gonna win, like you knew it, right? They were gonna be 10, minimum 10, usually 11, more like 12, wins, right? Solid. Steelers used to always win with 12-4, 11-5 back in the 16-game season, right? Lamar and them, I'm pretty sure, probably won with 13-4 record or something like that, right? Like,
yeah.
when you know, right? Like, usually you expect one of these teams to be in the hunt for the actual AFC championship, but it doesn't
Right.
feel like that. It feels like the AFC North has become what the NFC North used to be, and what the NFC South constantly is all the time, just like this
You know what's
subterranean kind of
crazy? Look
championship.
at the AFC South with Houston and Jacksonville. Jacksonville, who has the potential to get the number one. Who would have thought, man? But we're gonna get deep in all them topics and
Yeah, yeah,
everything.
yeah. I was
We're
gonna
gonna
say,
start with our best thing. Smash that like button, comment, subscribe. To people are watching live on the replay. We appreciate y'all for coming in. And of course, we had to bring our jerseys. We had to rep our peoples, man.
damn Skippy, yo, damn Skippy, man. It's a couple
Yeah,
of times
man.
a year when we get to actually like
Hmm.
flex like fans.
Yo, that's a fact, man. And this is the thing. It's a very, very big game. And obviously, you know why. Whoever wins,
Gonna be
they in.
huge.
You lose, bye bye. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
win or go
But the
home.
thing that win or go home, the stakes are on the line. And the thing that makes it so interesting is that the two coaches have experienced the most smoke that they've had in their
Yeah,
entire careers. Keep in mind that John Harbaugh and to Mike Tomlin are two of the most tenured coaches,
in
period,
the league
in the entire league. Now that Bill Belichick was retired,
now.
he got forced out.
Now we have to
Um,
give ourselves kudos on this, man.
mm,
We've been on this narrative from day one, and mainstream media is just catching up with us over the last month, talking about like if Harbaugh doesn't win, he can pretty much count on being out. People are actively saying, he's like fish that's been in the fridge too long. Right? At one time, it was very good. It is no longer.
really,
Now, Tomlin's in a slightly different situation, but both clubs have emulated each other over the years. Let's be real. Ozzie Newsome is a for real guy, right? He's a for real general manager. He's a real one, right? But he learned it watching what the Steelers did, kicking his butt throughout his career, right?
yep.
So, like those two teams really emulate each other. They know that each other is the competition, etc. So Tomlin's in a slightly different situation, just simply because of the nature and the history and the traditions of the Pittsburgh Steelers with regards to their coaches and coaching tenure. Plus, he looks like he's going to preserve yet another 500 season, right?
That's the
Um,
most shocking part. I did not expect that. Shout out
right.
Tomlin.
Like there was legitimate criticism of last week's game against Cleveland that Pittsburgh seemed more concerned about
Yes.
preventing Myles Garrett from sacking Aaron Rodgers than winning the damn game.
Right.
Um, and like that type of thing, if that's true at all, like disappoints me. Like those type of
Yes.
quelling narratives like that, that's garbage. That is legit bullshit. Like you go out there, mud stomp them, make a point, and then not have to worry about Baltimore this weekend. Now they're in excuse me. Now they're in a situation where like both teams' backs are against the wall. They're playing in Baltimore or in Pittsburgh.
I believe it's going to be Steelers Pittsburgh. Yeah,
Right, because they played in Baltimore last time, right?
they did. Yeah,
Regardless, Steelers are
It's in
Steelers
Pittsburgh.
are no lock at home. Steelers are no lock at home,
Mm,
and on top of that,
mm,
they've shown themselves. Both teams have shown themselves shaky and vulnerable in big moments. Like I didn't even want to handicap this game for betting, like for non-fans, etc.
mm,
Just because it's just such a mess. I think the biggest thing it comes down to is that Steelers won round one. And it's just extremely difficult to beat the same team, let alone a divisional team, twice in one season, unless you're having that type of season where you're like winning 12, 13 wins. And neither team is, right?
mm.
So I don't know what's going to happen in this game. I really don't. I know what I want to happen, but I literally have zero idea of what's going to happen. The DK Metcalf thing to me is absolutely infuriating. What is wrong with that jackass, right? Like the guy, you're on the road in Detroit. Why are you talking to fans, period? For any reason. I don't care
And
if
he
he
walked
like
up to that fan. He walked up to that fan.
the
What
fan
you doing?
apparently enticed him with a Steelers t-shirt, even though the guy's rocking silver blue hair and a Detroit jersey. He apparently enticed Metcalf with, "Oh, look, I'm a Steelers fan in town," suckered him in and then called him something really bad, right? But DK Metcalf, what are you doing? Right? It made no
No
sense. And
appearance.
now
Yeah.
he's out for the last two games when we could really use him. Like we really only have the one X receiver, and that's Metcalf. Now we got freaking nobody. People were talking about Kenneth Gainwell was going to be the top receiver on the
I
team.
mean, he's been one of the best players your entire season, but you don't want to have Gainwell as your number one as a receiver.
Okay. Like, and not even like he's lining up to do so. He just ends up getting like 15 receptions because there's nobody else.
And I say it like
Calvin
this,
Austin not getting it done, right? Like
I personally want my Ravens to win, but you're absolutely right. It could go either MFing way, and that's the frustrating part
the
as a
mess.
Ravens fan, as my perspective, because bruh, this guy, y'all already know I've had multiple rants against Harbaugh. He forgets Derrick Henry in fourth quarter.
You just took
He
the thought
doesn't
out of my
run the
head.
football. Does
We
not
saw
run
this
the football.
earlier. We saw what
There you
Buffalo
go.
did to the Steelers. Like if Harbaugh just throws Derrick Henry out there,
Yep.
we've seen the issues that the Steelers have had tackling sometimes, although they did shut them down the last time they played,
Yeah.
right? But to do that twice in a row, right? Twice against the same player, the same team, the same schemes, doesn't always like it's not always there. So yeah, if I'm John Harbaugh, I am trotting out Derrick Henry and every other running back I have to just get ball control and to try to take advantage of the Steelers' obvious weakness in tackling that was exposed so heavily by the Buffalo Bills about 3 weeks ago.
And the thing is about the Steelers rely on Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers does not have that big target. If he had DK in there, the game plan changes. It changes. Now you have a
It would have changed against
you have a
Cleveland.
horrible. There you go. You have a horrible secondary. Raven secondary is so bad. That's why I put on my Reed jersey. I love Ed Reed. He held it down. And having that type of real backhand help, it makes
Hey man,
all the difference.
did you
But
did you see Ed Reed and Ray Lewis and Michael Irvin all at the Miami game, man?
yeah, I'm
All
a Giants
giving
fan.
dap,
Irvin is
chest
so
bumping, and
crazy.
cheering on their canes. Yo, dude,
Yes,
that was
sir.
great.
Shout out to the Kings, man. I'm colloquial
We'll
fan.
get to that. We'll get to
Chat
that
about
later.
that
But
a bit later. But
but
overall,
Ed Reed and Ray Lewis, those guys are
ooh,
fucking real ones, man.
I'm telling throwback. And I'm telling you, I want the spirit of them guys to show up. But hey, who knows? Because these teams, both the Ravens and the Steelers, do not look like themselves, man. They don't look
Mm-mm.
like themselves. And it comes down to who has the passion, the will to win. And I'm just gonna be real with you. I don't think Tomlin's going go. Tomlin can he'll decide. I don't see the Steelers firing him.
I
I think
think
Tomlin's gonna
I,
get
I I
fired.
think special teams ends up deciding this. Like it's such a mess that I'm pretty sure that, like, unless Henry goes out and romps and runs for 150 yards or something like that and just nails it down right out of the gate. Like, if it ends up just being the typical muddy mess, my guess is that special teams decide this. A sloppy interception in the fourth quarter by either Lamar or Rodgers will, probably result in a pick six and be decisive.
I'm telling you right now, man, it's gonna be somebody or something unexpected, like you just mentioned, as a special teams play, something we wouldn't expect to
Yep.
happen in a game like this. Because let's be real, man, these two teams, if they make the playoffs, whichever one, they're gonna face probably, I don't know, probably New England. They're gonna face the Broncos or the Jags. Like, is it one and done? And this, I'll just say this: for Tomlin, it would be like 10 plus years he hasn't won a playoff game. And
Yeah.
fans are impatient. But Steelers fans are used to championships. You know what I'm saying? That's really hurting the fan. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I have more confidence in New England than I
Yeah.
have in both of
I
our teams. And just being real.
You realize that if the playoffs were to start today, you realize who either the Steelers or the Texans would face, or the Steelers or the Ravens would face. Yeah, I just gave it away. It's the Texans at the number 5
There you
spot.
go.
Like, try to
How
imagine
did
how
that
that
game
go,
go, bro?
try to imagine how that game goes down.
Hey man, one thing's for sure, two things for certain. We will not have the Cinderella. Well, we're watching the game. I think we all know who we're cheering for. I wear our jerseys for it. Y'all get
Yeah.
in the chat. Let us know what you think. Hey man, we're gonna have a spirited text exchange throughout the entire game. That's a fact.
Oh yeah.
Oh
I mean,
man,
it's going to be a great game. Is it the 1 o'clock window or no? It's the Sunday nighter, right? It's an island
yeah,
game.
they bumped it up. Yeah, they bumped it up to Sunday night, man. Yeah. Hey,
It's
wait,
gonna be epic, man. It's gonna be
25,
epic.
26.
I'm gonna be I'm gonna be tailgating all afternoon, man. I'm gonna be right for that game.
Hey, I like that, Unc. I like that. One
I got
thing
the
that
whole day off. I don't gotta work, man. I've worked 6 shifts in the last 7 days, and I got today off just as a fluke of the schedule. And I'm like, God loves me.
there you go, Unc. Football Sunday day off ain't nothing better than that. That's a fact.
I've been lucky. I've been lucky. I haven't had to beg off for work or any other related issue for not one podcast this season, man. It's been good. I think I was sick one weekend. Pardon me, my bad. But otherwise, right, work has not compromised this podcast one little bit. So yeehaw. Fuck work.
Let's go. That's a vibe. One person that is not working today is Philip Rivers. He's finally retired. That's another person who has the day
Stupidest,
off because they're going with Riley Leonard
stupidest,
versus Houston
stupidest
Texans.
thing.
Oh, Unc, you called it early. I'm gonna give you your flowers. You said this was a mess. And of course it was a mess. The Colts went from an 8-0 team to
Don't
finish
sell it short.
with
It
a
was a
losing
hot mess.
it's going to be 8-9 because they're facing Houston. It's over. It's over. And they pulled Philip Rivers from coaching from the couch in order to relieve revive their
You know what
season
they should do?
after they got injured. Go ahead.
He should still stay on as a coach. He should be the quarterback coach
Mhm.
or quarterback coach assistant in Indianapolis. He should mentor Riley Leonard, who is right back. So, like, we've come full circle. What did we say? What did we say 3 weeks ago when they started this thing? What on earth is Riley Leonard doing in Indianapolis if they're not going to start him?
There
Right?
you go. Right.
Riley Leonard brings to the table everything that Philip Rivers does except the experience, right?
Mm.
But we say, there was all this argument being made. Oh, he brings system experience. He's very familiar with the coach. I'm like, Riley Leonard goes to the meetings like every week for 2 years, right? Like, he's very
Yeah.
familiar with, and in some ways he's more familiar because he goes every week for the last 2 years and not just the last 2 weeks, right? So
Mm.
this was an ill-fated experiment from the get-go, in my opinion. We both expressed that opinion, and here we are, right back to where we were supposed to be 3 weeks ago.
And the thing is, here's the fact. What happened, the report was the leaders of the team were asked about this decision prior. In other words, they asked the quarterbacks, DBs, linebackers, all of them guys, wide receiver, one leader from each position group was asked, "Are you okay with Philip Rivers coming back in the game?" It was unanimous. That
Yeah.
means they had more faith in a 44-year-old retired guy than
Mhm.
Anthony Richardson and Riley Leonard.
Yep.
Imagine that. That's an
Well,
indictment on the quarterbacks. Really
it
bad.
was a
And I'm
hell
not
of a
saying that
message.
Philip Rivers looked good, but he looked like an old man out there. Like I'm being real. He did not look like he was ready for NFL games. I think he threw a pick on every game, but he would the offense looked good sometimes, but then sometimes it wasn't good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was really one hell of an indictment of Riley Leonard. And like I
yeah,
pointed out at the beginning of this thing 3 weeks ago, when we compared the numbers between Riley Leonard and what Philip Rivers did in his first stint out there, like they were almost identical. There was no upgrade. There was no obvious upgrade, period. Some people say the offense seemed to flow better, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, maybe it looked better sometimes. Maybe there were particular throws that reminded you of Philip Rivers' previous competencies, etc. Not that he doesn't have them now. Again, it is a remarkable story that a man came off the couch from coaching his kids' team at 44 years old and just stepped right back into the lineup. That is one hell of an indictment of the whole rest of the youth of the league, right?
right.
But also just his veteran knowledge, etc. But like Riley Leonard was not worse. So, like, why not
God,
just go with the guy who's here and coach him up? So, yeah, like if I'm Indianapolis, I'm like, okay, if the guy understands the system so much, how come you haven't brought him into the fold before to serve as a mentor and a quarterback's coach? Like, maybe that's a decision Indianapolis needs to make.
also, Philip Rivers can't play DB. If Philip Rivers cannot play linebacker, because that's
Yeah,
a real problem with the Colts. They give up
of
20
course.
points.
Which was reason number 13 slash was reason number 13B
Yeah.
why this was a bad idea to begin with. That like
Mhm.
the quarterback was not actually the real problem.
No, it wasn't. That defense is horrible. They picked up Sauce Gardner. They got worse. It's like doesn't make sense. And
Yep.
there's so many institutional problems with that team that it was already crashing and burning. But one team that
Yeah.
crashed, burned, and still came from the ashes, Buccaneers. The Buccaneers win that division, and I didn't watch the game or watch the highlights. It was a sloppy. It was whack.
Yeah, of
Such a
course it
bad
was.
game. Bryce Young, 266 yards, two touchdowns, one pick. Baker, not much better, 203 yards, one interception, one pick.
Why
Rico
am I smiling?
performance. Bucky Irving, 26 carries, 85 yards. Tetrioya McMillan seems the stats were not that good. Maybe it was a trenches defensive battle type game, but I was shocked that Carolina lost because Carolina was
Yeah.
on the up and the Bucks were on the low. But I guess experience and some fight on the Bucks players made them
Yeah.
win. Really quick thoughts
Yeah,
on
that was in the end. Bucks wanted it more. That's right. Tetaroa McMillan, big ups, right? He
Mhm.
broke a long-standing rookie record, broke 1,000 yards for the season, right? Albeit in 17 games. Regardless, that is a very impressive rookie season. Next year, I imagine he'll get more touchdowns. But I said to you in the intro there, why am I smiling? I'm looking at the score, 14-16. Carolina covered again.
Oh shit, they did. I did not know this.
2.5 point spread, dude.
Oh my god, man.
Carolina went 10-7 against the spread this year.
Oh wow. That's major. Wow, I didn't expect that good against the spread.
They were remarkably confident this season. That's funny, but in an irrelevant note. That's a shame. I would have liked to see Carolina go into the playoffs. I thought they, well, for that division, I think they earned it. But in the end, the Bucks did more, right? And then if you look at the stats too, the Bucks are less fraudulent. The Bucks lost by like a point. The Bucks scored like a point and a half less per game than they allowed on defense. But the Panthers with a very similar record allowed substantially more points per game, more like 5 points in the negative rather than a point and a half. So in the end, the more competent team, statistically, et cetera, won. But the
Mm.
bettor's favorite did not. Because who's the
Yeah.
worst in the league against the spread? 5 and
Oh,
12, the Buccaneers.
wow. They're such a bipolar team. They looked so good to start the season. Yeah, similar to the Colts. Crashed and burned, man.
Well, they
Crashed
lost
and
their
burned.
running game. They lost their running game, and now they finally have it back, and it's working, and it's enough to get them through. and Godwin and
already.
Evans are back, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
injuries. They started off great, had a rookie sensation in Egbuka, and then they got started getting injured, lack of discipline, things like that, and then they came back and did just enough to win the division, like every other freaking year in the NFC South. 2002 and I think 2018 accepted.
Wow. I'm telling you, man. You know what's crazy? I think, and to be honest with you, I think that game, sorry, I think that game might have been more entertaining than the Seahawks Niners game. I'm being real. And this was one of the most anticipated games
I know.
of
Look at that.
the week. 13-3. Trust me, do not trust the scores. It was utter domination from the Seahawks defense,
Yeah,
utter domination
defense.
from the Seahawks, the running game. Let me tell you something. We don't do this in our football talk. We gotta start speaking up for defensive coordinators, man. Pitching,
Yeah,
basically a shutout. Mike McDonald for the Seattle Seahawks absolutely
while
embarrassed
protecting
the Niners.
while
Great.
protecting your number one playoff position seeding.
Mhm. Big
Right,
one.
very important game that way.
Yes, yes. Now the whole NFC playoff race goes through Seattle. They have secured the number one seed. So
Right,
to really, really watch
crucial.
the Rams play today and see how they affect the Niners, because I think if the Rams win, they move up a few seats. If they
They
lose,
do.
Niners move up. So it's really, really interesting the playoff scenarios. What were your quick hits, thoughts about the 13-3 win Seattle Seahawks versus Niners?
Well, this is the second or third time now in the last 6 weeks where Seattle has won a grind them out defensive game. So that's very impressive to me. But yet they were also able to compete against the Rams in that shootout and play inspired offensive football when necessary. So Seattle looks like it's firing on all cylinders right now, capable of playing any type of game that you want to put out there for them. I expected more out of San Francisco. San Francisco looked like it was on fire right now. I really thought San
Yes.
Francisco would come out and be able to do a little bit more, right? Like we saw that. I expected something more like that Rams game. But no, the opposite occurred. And Seattle has shown itself to put on a smothering, suffocating level of defense when they're ready. Like
Yeah.
they look, yeah, Seattle, the Seahawks are looking like undisputed number one team in the NFL right now.
And they were able to shut down this guy because this is the key to the entire Niners team, the entire
Yep.
Niners offense. You
Yeah.
stop McCaffrey, you pretty much have won the game. I'm not joking. And the teams have keyed in on
And
that.
not everybody
You
can do that.
limit McCaffrey to 8 carries, 23 yards. I think he
Uh,
had like 3 catches. You win the game.
yeah. So yeah,
It's-
they smashed him in the mouth. They smashed him in the mouth right from the get-go, right? 8 carries, that should be the first half's work, right?
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like the fact that they could
Yeah.
not get him the ball meant that they did not have time in the backfield to either pass the ball or hand it off. Like that shows you that Seattle is coming.
And I'm telling you, this might bite the Niners in the ass later in the playoffs because look, now it's on tape. It's exposed. Those linebackers cannot stop the run.
Mhm.
Charbonnet went crazy. Kenneth Walker III went crazy. That Charbonnet touchdown went like 40 something yards. Amazing. Open field space
Finally.
all night, all day. And I think even Sam Darnold had some scrambles. I'm like, Sam Darnold statuesque ask, is this for getting yards? Yes. The linebackers
Well,
ain't it. Fred Warner ain't there,
well,
bro. Yeah.
this would have been a game if that narrative that people were trying to trumpet, around week 12 or 13, that Sam Darnold collapsed last year, and we're all just waiting for it to
Mhm.
happen again this year, right? That's proven those people to be incorrect, because this is another game. You're right. There was a modicum of pressure on this for Darnold, right? Like they kind of needed to win this game to get to the place where they want to be, and that's the undisputed number one spot. Win the division right out, all that type of thing. No bad looks. They want the team to feel good, to feel confident, feel loose heading into the playoffs. And they accomplished all of that just by trotting the defense and the running game out there. So Sam Darnold didn't even have to go through all that. He could be the game manager, right? Well, that's certainly one way of defeating that narrative is don't even bring Darnold into the question. He proved all the haters wrong the week before when he beat the Rams in the way that he did, right? So Seattle looks very dangerous and primed for a championship run right now. I don't really see a whole bunch of weaknesses.
I'm telling you, man, they are on fire right now. That overtime win versus the Rams, that was a real win. This win, trust me, like I said earlier,
Their
the score,
psychology must be like
it was
sky
like
high right now.
domination. Exactly. So you have a super hot Seahawks team going into the playoffs, and you have a Niners team racked up with injuries, limping into the playoffs, where it's gonna
Still,
potentially get worse. And this is a
still so injured. Like
still so
just
good. They still have
amazing to
12
me that
wins. Yeah,
they have as many wins as they do.
crazy. And for me, I'm looking at some playoff scenarios, right? You have the Jags, Broncos, and Pats going into this weekend for a chance to win the number one seed. You know what I mean? You have, I believe, the Rams, like I said earlier, they're playing Arizona, and they have a chance, I think, to come up to even the third seed, right? And guess what? These scenarios are happening while there's teams out there tanking for number one seed in the NFL draft, where they tell Mr. Max Crosby, sit down, you're injured now. What? You know? And he's completely fine. So it's going to be such an interesting week 18 to see which teams actually care and which teams want to be spoiler. And it's going to be very, very, very good to watch. What
It's
do you
going to
thought
be
of the
wild.
playoffs?
It's going to be
Yeah,
especially wild when it comes to
yeah,
betting, right? Like, there's very few
yeah.
games I handicap this week because it's a sucker's mission. Because, like, between the injuries and teams keeping their cards close to their chest, are they going to play them all? Look at the point spreads this week, right? LA's. We'll get into that later, but then we got some big old point spreads again this week, and it's like, is this a function of people sitting people down, people giving up on the season? Like, week 18 is going to be a mess. But on the other hand, there's not that many teams up in the air. There are not many teams on the bubble. I think there's only really one or two undecided spots in the whole tournament.
100%. It's the AFC North Championship, and before this, it was the Tampa Bay Bucks in Carolina.
Yeah,
That's it.
they've
Everybody
been
has
resolved,
been lined up. Yeah, it's been resolved.
right?
And how do you feel about that, Unc? I'm in between about it because usually the last few weeks of the NFL season have more high stakes. It's like
Yeah.
everything wrapped up 2 weeks ago. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, and last weekend, and to be fair, yesterday afternoon. So we'll take to
Yeah.
the end of the season. I don't feel bad about it one way or the other.
Mhm.
Like I said, I would be very cautious betting today. Pay a lot of attention to who's starting and who's not. But as for the entertainment factor, I don't really care that much. I was never a big one of tuning in to follow, because I remember some seasons where it's true. Yeah, there would be like half a dozen teams with a chance still to get into the playoffs, and it would come down to like third level tiebreakers, and it was just all overwhelming and too much to keep up with. I kind of like it the way it is, where it's all locked in. We
Yeah.
know what's going on. It's just a matter of watching. I'm trying to handicap next week, the wild card weekend, by watching this weekend.
Oh,
That's what I'm trying. That's what
yeah.
I'm going to do this weekend.
I'm telling you, it's a research type of week of slate of football
Well,
because we don't talk
and
about some
that's
of
the
the things.
luxury. Sorry, that's the luxury that you have as a handicapper and as a football fan when everything's all locked in and pretty much decided. Is that, yeah, you can sort of just watch the games and be entertained, knowing that none of it really matters. Whereas if it's white knuckle time, right? It's just like
Straight
driving
up.
in a snowstorm, keeping track of all the playoff scenarios, and it's just like, no. I just want to see which teams are sitting which players and who's getting healthy and who looks confident, and it's play football.
Yeah. It could be even a bye week for some players straight up. They'll just be
It,
back
it
to
will be in
show up.
some cases, right? And also
Yeah.
too, gives you a chance to see, like, some players maybe they want to take a look at as they solidify their playoff rosters, who's getting healthy, etc. Like, that's a big one, right? That's a tricky thing in LA, right? It looks like LA should just curb stomp by 14 points today, right? But LA
Mhm.
has got a lot of people injured, and they're confident that they're already in the playoffs. They don't need to win by 14 points. They might want to put a feather in their cap, and then solidify, try to put an end to what's happened over the last 2 weeks, consecutive back-to-back losses. But
Right,
I
right.
doubt they will. Like I'm sure they're still just going to manage that game and win by enough, etc. Because they've been bitten by enough injury bugs as it is, and they say they're just getting healthy. They think they're going to be in their like mid-season form by next weekend.
Mm,
We'll
okay.
see. We'll see. But that's why we watched that game today, right? What type of
Straight
shape is LA really in? Not about if they'll beat the Cardinals. They probably will. But will it be like 14 points? Doubtful.
right. Definitely, because I don't the Rams defense out there. I don't know, but I'm gonna tell you something. Let's chat quickly about some of these garbage. Let's just be real. Garbage
Yep.
to bad teams, and just some
Sure.
quick hits on them. We have the Saints, Falcons. We have the Bengals, the Browns. We have Giants and Cowboys. Yes, the Cowboys. Titans. With oh, I'm blanking out. Cam Ward. There we go. Chiefs, Raiders. A lot of garbage games slated with teams that are basically on off-season mode, but they have one game to go. I'll just let y'all know my quick thoughts. I think that Tyler Shuck guy in New Orleans, he's the starter. He's been playing, balling, getting wins
Yeah.
out of nowhere. The Falcons, they need to get rid of Raheem Morris and also improve their defense. But that team, so much
Better
potential waste.
discipline.
The Browns, oh my God, I have a massive list. We won't go there. I don't want y'all here all
I
day. The
put my stuff
Bengals,
in point form.
there you go. The Bengals, y'all know what time it is. When you spend so much money on O and almost zero on D, you get 6 and 10. Giants, Cowboys, come on, bro. They are so bad. Giants
I
are probably they might draft Mendoza, which is insane to think about. But Mendoza, we'll talk about that in our college section. Cam Ward and the Titans, very bad season. Really disappointed in Cam Ward, but he didn't have much to work with, so I understand. But Chiefs, you know how that went. Raiders, I think I'm gonna be 100% honest. The Raiders are the most disappointing team, especially because Pete came back. Geno Smith looks like the worst starting quarterback in the entire league. I'm not even
watch.
playing. And
Completely
Max
watch.
Crosby wasting his career being in that uniform. Mendoza might be y'all savior, but we'll see. What are your thoughts on some of these very bad teams that we don't really talk about?
Like I said, I put my stuff in point form here. And like to me, with the bad teams, it's a mixture of problems, right? It's obviously no one thing. Um, Injuries, for example, for like the Jets and Giants got bit particularly hard by injury bugs this year. Um, but there's also just a general absence of talent like throughout the lineups. It's usually line oriented, whether it's the offensive line or defensive line. In the case of the Giants, for example, they had a very fierce pass rush, but terrible corners and a lousy offensive line. And so there's also an absence of consistent, specifically QB play in some places, Oakland and Cleveland, as we just mentioned. Discipline problems, line ineffectiveness. Atlanta is the worst offender there, most likely. And some of the teams are also just institutionally and systemically bad. There's been a funk around these teams for decades. And whenever they look like they're making an improvement somewhere else, something else falls off, right? They just never seem to find the secret sauce of being able to put it all together. And that list is pretty much them. They've been unlucky, bad drafting, blah, 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 blah. We've all discussed the reasons throughout all the years, but the bottom line is that they just keep never really winning. Right. Like Arizona, for example. Arizona had a brief time where they were actually quite functional, went to a Super Bowl, and that was with Kurt Warner, a good running game, Larry Fitzgerald, and Wisenhunt, right? It was basically Pittsburgh South, right? It was Bill
So
Cowher
it
South.
was actually that's a
It
lot
was
of
Bill Cowher South is what it was, right?
mm,
So those were all like, it starts with that. Like they need somebody like that who can run a program like that, who's got a pipeline to players he knows are going to work with his system, da 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 da. And they just never seem to find that again. Don't ask me why, but why didn't Kyle Murray work out? We had all the great hopes for it, right? Well, in the end, probably because he's 5'10" and a half, right? So, so there are no real answers for all this, exactly why they're bad, but they just are, right? Like I said, they just have a certain stank on them after a while.
Telling you, man, it's kind of interesting or a major observation that the same teams are always drafting high. Giants, Jets,
Yeah, that's
Raiders.
the next
You guys
thing, right?
all notice that? Always drafting high, always with losing records. It's just
Right?
the system, straight up.
Completely counterintuitive, right?
Yes.
Couple 3 seasons, you're on a bad skid, right? So you pick number 1 the first year, maybe you pick number 4 the next year, maybe number 6 the next year, right? But with 3 high draft picks like that in a row, you're supposed to get yourself a right guard, running back, and a quarterback. Or not a right guard, a left guard, a quarterback, and a running back, right? And you're supposed to start to dig out from there, right?
Yeah. It's crazy, brother. My thing is, man, why don't these teams try to be like the U, man? Why can't they become college football legacy? I'm telling you something, man.
Well, that's what I
One
love too,
game.
right? That's why I rock this jersey and pray for it to come back.
Yes, sir. Unc, how did you feel about the
I was
mighty
ecstatic.
return of the U
I
beating
was fucking
the second
ecstatic.
best team
My
in the entire
Canes.
nation? Oh, let's go.
My Canes overachieving. Well, as has been documented on this program, and I think it was the first season we talked way back when. I actually grew up a Nebraska fan, absolute fan of the wishbone. Well, the wishbone's gone the way of the dinosaur, so has Nebraska, right? Nebraska
Yeah.
football. Once they broke the wishbone, man. Once they broke the bone, and defenses just simply got way too fast for that style of play to ever work again, right? So, and that was coincidentally at the same time that I moved to Florida, which was also coincidentally after the Nebraska program had put together finally,
Mhm.
after 10 years of, which seemed like an eternity when I was a teenager and a college student, finally put together back-to-back championships in there in Nebraska, in Lincoln, right? And at the very same time, the next year, I moved down to Florida and was saying to myself, well, I guess I need to find myself a Florida team, right? Because I
Gators.
sure as hell am not going to cheer for FSU, and I'm sure as not going to cheer for Gainesville, right? Because every time I look at those guys, it's just like, it's just all richy rich and privileged. Not that the Canes are not, right? Like Coral Gables is not a poor community, and it's a very private university, right? But
Yeah.
I started looking at because they're the ones that like ripped my heart out in the 83-84 season and Rose Bowl and national championship. Howard Schnellenberger's Miami Canes started that whole thing off. It wasn't Jimmy Johnson. It was Howard
Mhm.
Schnellenberger who pulled off an
Oh,
Indiana-like season, right?
right.
They lost, I think it was the first or second game of the season, then went
Right.
undefeated the rest of the year. And eventually, so they went up
Oh.
against Nebraska, who was 12-0, and Miami came in at 11-1, and they beat them.
Ooh.
And they beat them in the Orange Bowl, and it was like some people call it the greatest college football game in history. It
Wow.
was won on to Osborne's credit. He was in a position to get the tie and preserve the national championship on New Year's Day, New Year's night. New Year's Day night in 84. He could have preserved the championship with a tie. They could have easily kicked the tie. They fought back from like 17 points down. Miami's
Mm,
defense was running circles around that wishbone, cracking it. And they were 13
mm.
points down going in the fourth quarter. Yeah, Nebraska had to resort to the fumble Rooski to get into
Oh,
the
snap.
to get off the schneid and get
Fumble.
into the end zone, right? This
Old
team
school.
that's putting up 400, 500 yards of offense, 350 of it running. Mike Rozier, Heisman Trophy winner, right? And this independent team from Miami,
Mm.
Coral Gables, Miami, that nobody knows of, with Howard Schnellenberger at the helm, some old school guy with a walrus mustache and a suit and tie, right? From the Tom Landry school, right? And so he's getting it done. Well, finally,
Yep.
eventually, Irving Fryer and Rozier and I forget the quarterback. They all Tommy all came back and they finally got it all together. It came back, so it's 31-31. And so they go,
Mm.
or it was 31-30 in the fourth quarter, like 3 seconds left. And
Mm.
Nebraska, with balls this big, goes for the win rather than taking the tie and preserving the number one. They wanted to win outright. So they go for it. And at the last second, Hand
Mm,
comes in. I forget his name now. We went on to play in the NFL. Just
mm.
tips the ball away because they had the
Wow.
play. They had the player. It was going in there, and the hand of death just reaches in, and Miami
Oh,
wins and starts a dynasty. And so here
wow.
I am. Here I am 15 years later when I'd gotten rid of all my hate. I said, you know what? I'm going to cheer for the Canes because they're a Miami team. They remind when I look at Miami games and I go to Miami games and I see Miami campus in the city of Miami, it reminds me of Toronto. A lot of mixture, Caribbean people, Spanish people, everything, multiple languages spoken. Like it's just that kind of
Mm,
place. And I said, you know what? That's my kind of team, right? Reminds me of Toronto, right? As
mm,
opposed to Gainesville, freaking Tallahassee's privileged central, right? It's like, nah, man, give me the Canes. And the Canes were after a down period, right? They didn't really do much
there
in the
you
mid
go.
90s. We're
Yeah.
finally coming up again with who? Edgerrin James. And I
Jimmy
said, man,
Johnson.
that guy can run, right?
Yes, sir.
So, yeah,
Yes,
I
sir.
started cheering for the Canes around 98, and it was great. Been loving it ever since.
I love the way you broke that down, man, because you put us in the blender of history, man. You got me on my research, bro. And for me, I'm just be real. I love seeing Michael Irvin
Watch that Orange
winning.
Bowl game in its entirety. All football fans, especially college football fans, you can find it on YouTube. Look for the 84 Orange Bowl. Just pencil off 2.5 hours somewhere and watch it because every single play is like fucking football life and death for 60 minutes. Just insane. The
You
tension
gave
and
me hope.
drama was insane.
I love that. I love that because you see the game has evolved so much, but it's also similar. You know what I mean? You still need that drive. You need to have strategy. You need to have creativity to really win games, man. And shout out to my boy Michael Irvin, looking like the most lit unk you ever seen on the Miami sidelines.
Did you
He
saw
was
him on the
there.
sidelines of that game, man? Like he was, they wanted to get in there.
So
They wanted to strap up. I swear to God.
straight up. Yes, Ray was in there, man. A lot of people were in there showing love. I think Andre
Look at
Johnson
Irvin.
games. You were looking at a shift in culture. And you're talking about if you want to talk about a shift in culture, let's quickly touch on Indiana putting a BTA. We're talking about belted ass on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Yes, Bama looking like fools versus this guy Kurt Signetti, who is he told you already, all he does is win. That's all he does. You know what I'm saying?
It's
His
so
name
funny, man.
just
So
win
funny.
and then
Alabama.
career touch.
Alabama shut up all their critics, and now they
Mm.
just invited them all back into the room at twice the volume.
Telling you right now, that game was not even close. They were running at Alabama's defense. And when I say running, it was a running attack. And they knew they had to attack those linebackers, that D line. It could not handle it. And I think the Alabama even quit. I feel like they quit at a certain point.
Yeah.
They
Oh
quit.
yeah.
It was
It's
absolute
really kind of
domination.
ironic. It's really kind of ironic because about 20 years ago, it used to be on New Year's Day, like in the lesser bowl games, things like the Citrus Bowl and stuff like that. You would have like a an 8-4 Michigan team come down from up north. It was still good quality Michigan program, maybe even 9-3 or something like that. Coming down, and they would go up against before they started winning a lot, even like a team like Alabama, or they'd go against, Georgia or Florida. Maybe they'd had a bad season or something like that, and they were like, 9-4, or, or something like that, right? And
Yeah.
the SEC defenses would just like it would be automatic. You would just pencil them in to win because the
Right.
SEC defenses, even on a bad day, would be like faster than any Big Ten offense, right? It was like they were stuck in the mud, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, right? Like it was getting all
Mhm.
blown up by the SEC 25 years ago when speed was becoming a determining factor in defense in a way that it had not. And the SEC was demonstrating that speed on defense could, like, you have to redesign your offense because these guys, you got linebackers who are running 4-5. It's a
Straight
problem.
up.
It's a
Crazy.
problem, right? So that was sort of a revolution
Yeah.
in defense, right? Now it's all flipped around, and Bama looked like the team that was stuck in the mud. They were slow on offense, defense, running
Yeah.
back, wide receiver. It's just like, and Indiana just was firing on all cylinders, inspired like that. What's happening in Indiana right now? Like, if you haven't
Man.
already sat up and take notice, like what's happening right now, especially if they complete this and get the championship,
Oh,
like
oh
this
yeah.
is the type of season that I did not expect to see in the NIL
Me,
era at all.
me neither. I don't think very few people. I bet a lot of Indiana people did not
Like,
expect that. They're a basketball state.
it's
You know what
super
I mean?
inspiring to see. Like, it's super
Yeah.
inspiring to see. Like that first Miami win.
And I want to mention something that I kind of see happening, and maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. I have a theory. A lot of Big Ten schools have overcame the SEC, meaning Big Ten has planted its flag as the best division in college football, in my opinion, due to Ohio State's dominance. Oregon, we're going to touch on that
Yep.
soon. Indiana, right now, in the past few
Michigan.
years, they've been running it. You know what I mean? Is I think maybe LSU, no, Georgia was the recent SEC champion, but guess what? Georgia lost. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Georgia
Well, it
lost
used to
too.
be,
So it's like,
it used to
damn, you know.
be, it used to be that Georgia, LSU, and Alabama, all three of them would be contesting for the national championship in any given year. Certainly for a
Yes.
portion of the season, anyways, until they eventually knocked each other's asses out, right? But
Right.
right, so three teams every year that you could consider top five. And yeah, now the Big Ten is that conference, right? Because the SEC is going through something a little bit, right? They're going through a little bit of a change right now, a bit of a churn at the coaching level, and even like what Lane Kiffin did to the SEC this year showed you.
Yes.
Yeah, we got to
Yes.
talk about that too, right? Like that was a
Let's get
freaking
it. Let's
impressive
get it.
win.
The Ole Miss Rebels came back. They were down early in the
I
game,
I
and
counted
as
them out. I
Georgia
said,
came back
okay,
and
this is it. This is the price of Lane Kiffin leaving, all that type of stuff. Eventually, just overcome by Kirby Smart, but no, sir.
there was a shot of the new coach of Ole Miss on the sideline going in on his defense because he plans to be a D coordinator and a coach. That's his goal.
Yeah,
He went off on them like they could. The reporters couldn't get into it, but you knew after that scolding, after that MFing he gave his whole team, they turned up. They turned up, and I'm
yeah.
so happy that Lane Kiffin is not a part of this. And I think Ole Miss, man, who would have thought? Not me, but Ole Miss is looking really, especially that
Just
quarterback
still,
transition
just
out there.
so just
Woo!
still so wild to think that Lane Kiffin walked away from all of this, like for the
Ole
LSU
Miss.
job. Like fuck. But anyways, yeah, that's a shame. And so yeah, whoever that guy's name is who replaced Lane Kiffin, like if you're not giving the job to him, like what the hell's wrong with you?
Oh yeah, man. And I think he does have the job now because everybody he loves him and he's Pete Golding. I have him right here. I'm
Yeah,
telling you, man, this guy Lane is so stupid. This I think if he doesn't replicate anything that Pete Golding is about to do with Ole Miss, you don't think that LSU's fan base, culture, boosters will get you the F out of here? They did that
yeah.
to Brian Kelly. You know
And
what I
let's
mean? It's not
And let's talk about
crazy.
some of that fan culture, man. The way I saw the Ole Miss fans celebrating on the sideline, thank goodness,
Oh,
without those stupid flags. But like to see the excitement, like to see a program, and I'm sure it's been the same up in Indiana
of
to
course.
be alumni and fans and students in the crowd at a moment like
Yes.
that when you win, when your team has never done it before, like that
Yeah.
type of excitement that you see, that's just ecstatic type of euphoria is really
Yeah.
inspiring and fun to watch. And you don't see it all the team as the power has always been sort of concentrated in a rotation of about 10 different teams throughout the US, scattered throughout the different states and whatnot. But you know what I'm saying, right? If it's not
Sure.
Bama, it's Penn State. If it's not Miami, it's Texas. If it's not Texas,
Michigan.
it's USC or Michigan or
Right.
OSU. You know what I'm saying, right? Over the
For sure.
years, certain
It's
teams
the
have
same.
throughout the eras have dominated the headlines. So when we get a season like freaking Indiana or the Miami season I talked about, another one was BYU and Steve Young's year, right? I think that
BYU.
was in 82, 83, right? They went 13-0. And, you know, since when does BYU win? It's so funny. They had to hand out
Yeah.
the national championship on, it was like
Mm.
December 30th or the 31st. in the
Mm,
Holiday Bowl. It was December 30th in the Holiday Bowl. They
bruh.
basically were handing out the national championship 48 hours before the New Year's Day games because it was so decisive. They were the only undefeated D1 team in the country, right? So when that happens, it's an aberration, and it throws a wrench into things, right? Like having to hand out declare a national championship on December 30th. But
Crazy,
it's
man.
great to see. It adds variety.
Yes, yes. It's great to see and have variety. I'm going to touch finally on the last game on the slate, which was the Oregon Ducks beating the SHIT out of Texas Tech.
Another
I like that
defensive
quarterback
gem.
Dante Moore. I'm telling you that quarterback Dante Moore is going to be a high draft pick, man. Y'all better watch out. And Oregon, led by Dan Lanning, very interesting stat. I want to tell you. I think you already know this because your knowledge game is crazy. All the coaches in the Final Four. We're talking about Dan Lanning for Oregon, Kurt
Mhm.
Signetti for Indiana, Pete Golding for Ole Miss, and Mario Cristobal from Miami. Final Four right now, semifinals. They all coached under Nick Saban.
Yeah.
Nick Saban's kids. Real talk. And it's his grandpa watching his little grandkids fight. So cool to see that a great
Well,
legendary coach
what greater
gives him
compliment? What greater compliment is there to Nick Saban's legacy
oh
as
yeah.
like football coach emeritus, like at the level of Paul Bear Bryant type of thing? Like he's really done it. He really stepped away. It was magical the way he stepped away at just that moment and say, like, you know what? I'm not putting any of
About
this
this.
reputation on the line for this, right? I've
Yeah.
done too much. I've done my remember we talked last week about stepping away from the table? Nick Saban stepped away from the table with his pockets bulging.
Oh man. You know, this man really pulled out at the right time, brother. I'm telling you
And
right now.
but to have that
Yeah,
entire Final Four from your coaching tree, not just from your
yeah.
coaching tree, but from your program, man,
Straight up.
that's quite a compliment to you, sir, Mr. Saban.
Definitely. And let me tell you something, man. I think he kind of saw what was happening with the NIL and transfer portals, and he was smart enough to say, I'm peacing out. If everybody
Yeah.
can now pay players like I used to pay players, I'm out. If it's a level playing field, deuces. That's my
You know,
theory. I don't know.
and here's a
Yeah.
tidbit that people forget about Nick Saban is that
Mhm.
in the '90s, the late '90s, before he became a coach in Miami at LSU and then Miami, the Miami Pro program, he was
Mhm.
the coach at Michigan State, the Big Ten. And
Oh.
he did very, very well. People forget about it, but that was my first memory of
Oh.
Nick Saban. Was at Michigan State, where
Okay.
yeah, and he was doing really good stuff with at the same time that Tom Izzo had the Flintstones and all that type of stuff going to the NCAA Final Four, right? Because I'll never forget the story. I'll never forget the story that Tom Izzo had such a big ego that
Mhm.
when Saban left such a hole in the football program when he walked away, Tom Izzo
Yeah.
had so much ego that he proposed that he could actually run both programs. And we're like, dude, we got a list of other coaches. Like, don't worry. Like, you don't just worry with the basketball. You nutcase.
Yeah. I'm telling you, man, to be that great at something, you have to be kind of a nutcase. And
Yeah,
I'd give my
you do.
respects to
That's been a
Mr.
theme on this show forever that you don't get to the top without being a little different than the rest of us.
Oh, that's a fact. And by the way, he looks hella young on this, man. I had no idea. Thanks for
Yeah,
putting
man.
me up on game, Monk.
That's why we bring Unc on the show, man, to give you that old school historical insight.
That's a fact, brother. My thing is, right, when you have this discussion, it's hot. It's a hot discussion that happened, and I had to put it in. Cam Newton on his 4th and 1 show, he has a ranking system called Game Changers, Game Managers, right? And he's been in a little hot water for this hot take where he said that Drake May, who is, if you look at betting lines today, he's the favorite to win the MVP.
Yep.
He Cam Newton said that he is a game manager, not a game changer. And for me, I was like a lot of people, I was like, what the hell are you talking about, Cam? But then I looked at the stats.
Mhm. Mhm.
I looked at the competition. Then I looked at his receivers. And I'm like, this man's a game manager. He's not a game changer. So in his wacky hats, in his crazy outfits, in his weird delivery, Cam might have been right. Unc, tell us about this game
Well,
manager versus game changer, especially in the MVP conversation.
Well, let me tell you, I actually have not paid that much attention to Cam Newton since he became a podcaster and a broadcaster. I didn't really know how he got there. I loved him. I loved him as a player, but I haven't really followed him that much. And yes, I see his flamboyance and everything, and I assumed that
Yeah,
there was something flaky behind all of that, right? That it was character driven, etc. Until I sat down and watched. He did an interview recently with Jamel Hill, and it
okay.
related to Stephen A. Smith and ESPN and whatnot. And he sat down and talked to her for it was about a 45-minute segment that I watched. And Cam Newton blew me away. I did not
Smart
realize
guy.
how incredibly intellectual and smart and deep and spiritual that guy is in his analysis. So just let me get that off my chest and say
Yeah.
that he is a really, really smart guy. Everything he does is intentional and purposeful. And if he has that opinion, right away, I'll just say I respect it because I know there's research behind it. Do I agree with
Right.
it? I don't know. The guy's going to game manage himself to an MVP possibly because look at the record. Like,
Yeah.
however you get
Yeah.
there, you're still the MVP in my opinion right now, the way I'm looking at it. Right. But Cam Newton, I was so impressed with like his questions and like the way he was going about developing his research, his whole process was like he's my kind of guy. He wears those outfits because he's a freak. He's like smarter than everybody else, and he that intelligence says, "I want to look bad," right? Like fucking a. I'm all in on Cam Newton. So if Cam Newton says he's game manager, he's game manager, in my opinion.
I'm telling you right now, man, there's a lot of wisdom behind those weird outfits.
He's
I'll
a
say it like that.
smart guy.
And he's playing up a character. He's playing up
Yes,
for
but
entertainment
for a
factor.
purpose,
But
not
he,
to be a
yeah,
clown, though,
no, exactly that. And my
which is what I
question,
assumed at first. Shame
my
on
question
me.
is, if somebody had said what he said and there were somebody else, let's say Stephen A. Smith, let's say it's
Right.
Dan Orlovsky, let's say some of the media guys we sometimes
True.
watch, Colin Cowherd, right?
Gotcha.
Would it be wrong? I don't think so. I think people are judging a book by its
Yep.
cover, and that's wrong. Because let me tell
Yep.
you this:
Well, he's a
you
lightning
look at
rod. Because of the way he
mhm.
looks, he's a lightning rod. A
Oh
smart
yeah,
African American man or woman who also
right.
decides to be high character, high profile, always going to get attacked. Always going to
And
get
think about
attacked.
it like this. Let's look at his arguments for its merits, right? Which teams did Drake May and the Patriots play a lot? Let's go down the list. Miami, Titans, Giants. We're talking about like Bengals. We're talking about horrible losing teams. Most of their
Mm-hmm.
schedule.
Yep. It's
Fraud
been well
alert, guys.
documented.
Well documented. In my eyes, I'll take Stafford as MVP, but we'll see what happens in Arizona today because
Mm-hmm.
I think Stafford has played better competition and more consistent competition than Drake May. But yes, if you're looking for a game changer, I'll take Stafford over Drake May personally. And I just think because of the level of competition he's dealt with consistently, you know.
And my counter to that argument would be like, okay, Stafford's wonderful, et cetera. His line's done a good job of holding him up, but Stafford's got Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, who Drake May
Fair
got.
argument. Right, right. He has Stephon Diggs, and Butte is not the same as
Some rookie,
Devontae Adams and Puka with best receiver in the league. In my opinion, he's one of them.
right? And a
And then
running game with Kyron Williams and Blake Corum that's very secure. So yes, I think Stafford, and it's not a criticism of Stafford at all. We've spoken about how amazed we are by Old Man River this year, right?
yes, sir.
That it's just a remarkable career that he's had, and that he's actually playing at this level at the peak of he's like those
Yeah,
musicians that were famous in their first 5 years of their career, but then it's like you check in on them 15 years later and they actually sound better,
mm,
right? Like Prince or
yeah,
something like that, right?
straight up.
Um, you see what I'm saying? Like Stafford's like
Yeah,
Prince that way. But at the same time, like the assets that he's had, like LA's been incredibly intelligent in helping to extend that career by ensuring that he has those assets, right? Whereas
Right.
maybe not,
Not so
right?
much. I will
Intentional
add
fun.
this. I will add this wrench in the conversation, adding on to what Cam Newton said. He said a quote unquote hot take, which I personally think should be the take. The real MVP of this season is this guy, Miles Garrett. Miles Garrett is the real MVP for this utter dominance and importance to the Cleveland Browns. Let me tell you something, man. Like you said earlier in this episode, right? The Steelers were trying their best to stop Garrett more than beat these Cleveland Browns. That's how impactful this man is to the game of football. And he's not going to win it, obviously, because it's become a QB
That's how
award. So,
egotistical the Steelers are about their looking bad on national television.
damn. So,
They don't
Unc,
want to
what are
look
your thoughts,
good,
man?
but they just don't want to look bad.
Oh, man. Unc, tell me, what are your thoughts about this MVP award just being a quarterback award? There's so many great players that
Yeah.
deserve that award.
Well, you know me. You know me. We started off this podcast 5 years ago, or 4 years ago, I should say,
TJ
with
Watt.
an opening episode talking about potential
Fire.
MVPs. And I set the
Mhm.
tone for this podcast by saying that
Thank you.
TJ Watt
Thank
should be like the MVP candidate, whatever, because, just of
you.
what he brought to his team and all that stuff. And that set the tone for this podcast that we do think outside the box. But
Fact.
on this particular narrative, I disagree, and I say no
Okay.
thanks. Number one, because we've acknowledged that there are reasons why it is mostly a quarterback award. But if you are going to give it to a defensive player, he has to finish the job. He has to do that spectacular thing that we all stood up and said, yo, this guy is more valuable than even a quarterback because he just did that thing. And that thing was the sack list, right? He was on
There you
pace to
go.
get 25, 26 sacks in 17 games. He was on pace to blow that record up by the 15th game. Right? Even the 14th game, he was on like sack record watch. Has he even broken it yet?
No, he's a 22. He needs like a half sack to break it.
So he's a
He
half
did a
sack
half sack,
short,
not even a full
right?
sack.
So the record
Yeah,
stands. The
the
16
record
game
says.
record continues to stand. So
Yeah,
and he's been shut out. He was getting them in bunches, and then all of a sudden
yeah.
now he's getting the opposite. He's getting shut out, right?
He's getting
So
he's getting triple teamed all the time. Like
I
teams don't
know, and
want
it's
to bring him down
unfair.
that list.
It's
It's messed up.
unfair, but it
Yeah.
removes him. In my heart, it removes him from a candidacy for MVP. If he had got those 25 sacks in 16 games, you would have had to fist fight me to take that MVP vote out of my hands.
I respect it. I disagree.
I
To be
know,
real, because
and that's fair
Miles Garrett's impact for the Cleveland Browns, in my opinion, is the most important thing for any team. In
on
my
any other
opinion,
team. Most likely, yep.
teams,
He is the straw that
teams,
stirs the drink.
100%. Teams, every opposing team has him circled. We're stopping this guy. We're gonna do everything in our power to stop
Crazy.
this guy from wrecking our entire game. He is,
And the
in my
Steelers
opinion,
still couldn't find a goddamn receiver.
that's what I'm saying. You have to, and that shows you your value. And the real question is, what's value, right? As a position, defensive end is not as valuable as quarterback. Everybody knows that, right? But guess what? If your D end gets 5 sacks in a game, what the hell? That's crazy value. If your defensive end breaks a Michael Strahan record that's been almost 20 years in existence, that's value, in my opinion, the most
And
valuable.
even
And
that record is like, all the commentary about
yeah,
that one. You could easily say that the record should
Favre,
only be 21 and a half.
thank you when Favre fell on the ground on purpose. You know what I mean?
I will never forget that game. I was watching that game and I saw the mischievous look on his face. I'm like, you dick. Like, why? Like, come on.
Another reason to hate Favre. I'm telling you, that was like, I mean, it's nice because it's his friend. I think they were friends at a certain point,
They were
but
good
still,
friends,
like,
but what the fuck has that got to do? Like, that's just, what, are we all
yeah,
palling around? The guys in the booth, the guys on the field? No.
come
Mortal
on,
enemies
yes.
only on the field, please.
I'm like, damn, did y'all plan that out before the game? Imagine that. Like plan like literally sliding down to let your homie get it. Like that was not cool.
Yeah.
But let me
No,
tell
it
you
wasn't
something.
cool. And a lot of people called it out
Mm,
because they saw that
good.
look on his face.
Good. I'm telling you right now, we need to show more love and respect to defenders. I think Lawrence Taylor was the last defensive player to win MVP. Let's bring that back, guys. These guys in the
Yep.
trenches, these guys with DBs doing their thing, safeties, D linemen, show them some love. Of course, we salute and appreciate quarterbacks, but what Miles Garrett is doing in general is absolutely amazing. Max Crosby,
Yeah.
absolutely
And
amazing.
And there's
All
been
these
a few
guys,
guys. There's
Ryan,
been a
mm,
few guys like that in the 80s. Bruce Smith was like that, Dexter Manley. Like it really was an
mm,
era where you could have like a single defensive player like Miles Garrett really could
right.
determine the outcome of a game and therefore you could consider to be MVPs.
Definitely, definitely. But hey, I don't make the rules. I'll make the decisions. I leave it to them other guys. You
Right?
know what I mean? That's
Just
not
got
my
just
burden
gotta
to bear.
flow with the culture, man. Just gotta flow with the culture.
That's a fact. You know what? We're not gonna flow with the culture though. Is our lines and spreads, brother. We're gonna go with Unk's recommendation, man, because he knows the truth. Let's go, Unk. What are your thoughts for lines and spreads as we prepare for like maybe
Yeah.
80% meaningless games and like three games
Yeah,
of
I was gonna say it's a short list, man. It's gonna be a short segment.
yeah.
Game that did intrigue me though is New Orleans at Atlanta. Even though it's an absolutely
Ooh,
meaningless game, it's only 3.5 points. These games always are kind of tough. Both teams play indoors. New Orleans is on the road at Atlanta. What intrigues me about this game is the development of Tyler Shugg, like you mentioned. I think Olave is out, but Tyler Shugg, as quiet as it's kept, has shown some real confidence over the last 6 weeks. He's like you notice, right? He's that rookie with the funny name that no one's talking about because
yeah.
no one's really heard of him, but he's not making mistakes, right? He's not making enough mistakes that you're like, oh, we know this guy. He's terrible.
Right.
And now New Orleans is also 8-8 against the spread, so they've overperformed against the spread. Atlanta's 8-7-1 against the spread, so they're not incompetent against the spread. So it makes it kind of interesting. But I've kind of got New Orleans, definitely got New Orleans covering that 3.5 point spread, and I think it's going to be an over too. I think offense has scored in this game.
Nice, nice. I think the
Um,
line moved to four, by the way. So
or
yeah, it's moved up
Really,
to
huh?
four
Yeah,
now.
so I'm
Yeah,
going the opposite way. I'm taking New Orleans on that.
nice.
The other one that's interesting only simply because of the participants, Tennessee at Jacksonville. As I've said before, it's tough to beat a team twice in one season, even if it's Tennessee. The other one is Jacksonville is pretty well secured, but they're still fighting for the conference, like the overall number one, possibly. Correct?
One seed. Yeah, they win and a few losses. They just win
So
and puts them in a better position.
Like, I have
Yeah, they
no
do
doubt
have wins.
Jacksonville will win today and probably win solidly. But 13.5 points against a team as pathetic as Tennessee, but who is still 7-8-1 against the spread, means that people often overestimate how much Tennessee will lose by. Also, Tennessee of late, of course, now that fantasy football is over, Tony Pollard is now suddenly showing up to grind out 150, 200 fucking yards in a game
Yeah,
and
I
do
saw that.
everything that we thought he would
Where,
do.
where was this?
I know, right? But yeah, so Tennessee has not pulled the upsets, but they've certainly covered the spreads recently, right? So that's an intriguing game to watch. I just think 13.5 is large, that spread. And if you look at the games historically, they've often been random and back and forth. So a little hedging my bet literally in that game. The other game that is has some margin of importance is Detroit at Chicago. Detroit could easily play spoiler here today.
Mm,
But Chicago is definitely trying to protect and preserve its position, so I believe it will play inspired enough at home to win by more than 3.5. Although, again, that's a bit of a coin flip type of thing there.
yeah.
Arizona at LA. As I said, that game is 14 points, and I don't trust
What
LA
the
Rams.
hell?
I don't trust LA Rams to win that game by 14 points. Not with the injuries they're
Yeah.
going through right now. Not with them being in bunker mode, getting ready for the playoffs. All their talk and focus is on the playoffs. I read an LA Times article where that's all anybody on the team was talking about, was recalibrating and setting for the wild card weekend. So I just don't see a 14-point blowout in the cards. And LA's fraught with injuries right now. I had that in my original notes here when we were talking about Rams being on fraud alert. Tyler
Oh,
Higbee. Tyler Higbee's been injured. They've had a collection of 3 different tight ends trying to cover his work.
mm,
Right tackle Rob Havenstein's been off for how many weeks right now? Devontae Adams is out. Safety Quinton Lake is out. Both Kyron Williams and Blake Corum are questionable to doubtful for today, right? Like there's a lot of injuries in LA right now, and they're trying to protect everybody. So I just don't see a 14-point beatdown of a team like Arizona, who we have noted has not been winning games, but has been reasonably competent. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I'm looking at the Rams injury list. It's pretty long, man. It's pretty long.
I
It's
I
pretty
lie.
long.
I
And there's a lot
lie.
of good players on this list. Yeah. You know what I mean? So you're right. Can Arizona make it competitive? Absolutely. We've seen it many
Sure,
times.
they can. They've been
You
they've
know what I
been
mean?
they've had very competent quarterback play the last few weeks. They just ain't been winning.
Now here's the thing. Here's the thing. Are they gonna do the strategy where they pull out their starters? I'm talking about the Rams to prep for next weekend, like
Well,
you
this is
said.
what I'm saying. They're going into
Yeah.
bunker mode. Not to mention the fact that injuries have put them in bunker mode already, anyways, right?
Yeah. Rather rest your guys instead of getting some weird freak injury heading into playoff weekend. So you're absolutely right, man. A lot of meaningless football games, but this could be, like you said, a tester into going into
And
next week.
you
This is gonna
mentioned
be
also, like
mm,
if with the 49ers loss, if
yeah.
LA wins today, they move up to position number 5
Yes. They
from
move up.
or no, yeah, no, 5 from
It-
6,
They
right?
they are cheap
So
right now. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
it's not a huge difference, although that does get them the Tampa Bay Bucks, which they would probably love to play.
I'm telling you, they're looking at other teams, and I bet you they're gonna make calculated decisions saying, "Oh, Stafford, you hurt your toe." You know what I mean? Let's have
Yeah.
somebody else come in here in order for them to get in this position to play, like you said, Tampa. Even if they get in a position to play the Eagles, who look
Mhm.
absolutely pathetic right now,
Yeah.
that's a win for them in a way. You know what I
The
mean?
bottom,
So teams are playing.
Unlike the AFC, which is not as good at the top, the AFC is more consistent through the middle and the bottom, whereas the NFC is extremely strong at the top, but it's kind of sus in the 5, 6, 7 spots.
Oh, it's super sauce. You know what I mean? It's looking and a lot of injuries. You have obviously Green Bay's in there. Green
Yeah.
Bay is
You
good.
got some
You know what I mean?
we talked about the dominance of the NFC West, right? And it's true, right? They are ultimately going to put probably 3 teams in that in that tournament. 3 teams out of 7 playoff positions, all from the NFC West. But it's taken a toll, man. Some of those teams are looking creaky, right? Both the Rams and the 49ers looking creaky. And meanwhile, Seattle looks like they're made of bolt metal, right? It's just cruising like a
Yeah,
battleship, cruising like a battleship through the division and conference.
I'm telling you, man. They prove Mike McDonald proved my theory that sometimes change is risky, but it's very rewarding. Look at Pete
If
Carroll
if
now
it's
with the
done intelligently, if it's not
if it's
just
done
chaos, if it's change,
right.
a purposeful change that's well researched, change for change's sake can work.
And think about it like this: what Mike McDonald did to that Seahawks defense, they're looking like that legendary why is it escaping me right now?
Monsters of the Midway. You keep wanting to find that 86 Bears team again, dude. It's never coming back. But I tell you, this team looks pretty good. They look like a close facsimile. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, dude, that 85, 86 Bears team with Buddy Ryan, you'll never see the likes of that again, dude. I think they allowed less than 100 points in the season. Like it was some stupid number, or 108 points against. Like it was some stupid number like that, dude.
Yeah. I'm thinking more so the Richard Sherman the era defense
Oh, yeah, yeah. The Legion of
yeah,
Boom.
Legion of Boom. Sorry, that's what I was looking for. Legion of Boom. I don't
Yeah.
know if they'll reach these heights, but this is the best defense I've seen in Seattle since these
Yes,
days.
certainly since the Legion of Boom. Absolutely. You're
Yeah.
correct in that.
So in my mind, if it's done right, look at Vrabel and the Patriots. You know what I
Yep.
mean? If it's done right, you can change things up and rebuild your team back to greatness. If it's done wrong, you'll be the Raiders. You know what I mean?
Well,
Too
yeah,
deep
yeah,
for
yeah.
advice.
Because
You know? Yeah.
ultimately, you want to reload and not retool.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's gonna matter, especially for our teams tonight. We're gonna be watching. If we're ready to reload and retool, you feel me?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. But we're gonna end this off as we always do with our top five teams going into week 18, man. And I think this is gonna be interesting for me because we've seen a lot of narratives change over the last 2 weeks.
Sure, we have. Wow, have we ever?
So, my
Very
pleasure to go
fluid.
first, brother. Go
All
ahead.
right.
Who are your top five teams heading into week 18?
Very fluid top five, just like we promised back in what was it, week 6 when we started doing this?
Yeah, for sure. It was about week
All
six.
right.
It was
So
fun.
my top five, I'm
Mm,
grudgingly throwing the 49ers in there just because, they're going to the playoffs and they're, what are they, 11-5? Like it's or 12-5. Like that's a good record.
yeah, it
Second in that division. And given the number of injuries that they've had, like
is.
I'm impressed that they've somehow managed to do that. I have the Pats at number 4, former number 1 team. Pats at number 4. And I have the Jags in front of them too. I think the Jags are a better team than the
Yes.
Pats for all the reasons that we just discussed about the weakness in schedule and the skill players versus the other skill players, right?
Oh yes.
And now I've also got the Bronx at number 2, right? So this is the first time in the top 5 I think we've had a solid core of 3 AFC teams instead of 2 and 3 AFC teams. The NFC, pardon me, 3 NFC teams because we've had the NFC sort of the stronger division. And I still have the Hawks at number 1, the Seahawks at number 1 at 14-3. Their points, for and points against differential is insane, by far the best in the league. They really truly look like a clear number 1 team. And the Broncos look like a clear number 1 to me in the AFC. So they're number 2. But the Jags aren't that far behind the Broncos, buddy. Like, and I think they beat them or something like they were played real close together earlier. So the
Mm.
Jags could easily be number 2 as well. But I'm going to go with the Bronx because they're just like the number 1 team in the AFC. So we're just going to leave it at that for now. So I've got Hawks, Broncos, Jags, Pats, and the 49ers bringing up the rear at number 5.
Very, very nice. Here's the interesting part. We have the exact same teams, but slightly rearranged. Real talk.
Okay.
Real talk.
Okay. All
I got,
right now.
I got the Pats at number 5. I'm gonna be real with you. The Pats give me heavy fraud alert. The Pats, and I hate to say it because I really was rooting for this team, the Rams. I'm gonna say it because the Rams. You mentioned injuries, but I'm gonna say something. Their special teams has came to bite them in the rear end many
Well,
times.
we discussed that
And
at length 2 weeks ago. Cost the
yes,
man his
sir.
job.
Yes, sir. And I'm telling you, if one of these teams that they face in the playoffs has a great special teams play, it's over. The season's done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I see some holes, some things that made me put the Rams at number 4 when usually I had them really high. And you saw what happened these past 2 weeks.
You see the
Stafford,
Rams are missing from my top 5 this week. There's no room for them with San Francisco
right?
having moved into second in that division. Um,
Yes.
so yeah, like Godspeed the Rams. We all know how I feel about this Rams team and about Matthew Stafford, but you'll notice that the Rams are missing from my top 5,
Yeah, actually they are. See,
and they
my
were
bad.
my number 1 at one time.
Yes, they so the Colts were our number 1 at a certain point. Man. The season's crazy.
Well,
I'm
yeah,
telling
yeah.
you.
I think the first week, yeah, we both had the Colts at number 1. We're like, you can't argue with 6-1, dude.
The time flies, brother. I didn't put the Niners in for the simple fact that I don't trust them with the injuries. So it's almost
You ain't buying it.
I ain't buying it. I feel some fraud alert, but I could be wrong as well. Who knows? I got Denver at number 3, right? And here's my hot take: Jags at number 2.
I
I
told you.
think if Jags play Denver right now, I think the Jags win. You
I
know what I'm
think
saying?
Jags win too.
Yeah,
I think
man.
Right. So yeah, I told you you could easily make the argument that they could be number two, but I
Yeah.
digress.
And then finally, Seahawks number one. I think it's clear to see these
Obvious number
two
one.
games were so
Clear,
down in fashion.
clear and obvious number one they are.
Oh man, and I think pretty much the NFL. I'm on the NFL site right now. They pretty much, if they have the whole league, if they have a list, they have Seattle number one, Denver number two, New England number three, Jags number four, Niners. Actually, you got that. You're in line with them.
I
Niners
nailed it,
number
did I?
five. You
Me and
nailed it.
MSM. Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
I sent out the email you last night.
sir. They got the call. You gave
They
a
got my call. They all follow me on the DL.
yes, sir. Hey, man, I want to say this. Even though we're ending the season, we're going to do playoffs, obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
I will not be surprised if people are listening to our pod, maybe not announcing it for takes, because there's too many times I've heard takes that you said or I've said a day later, Uncle
Yeah,
Ocho. A day later,
I'm serious.
a
Yeah,
day later.
I'm serious. I think we've done a very good job of developing
Yeah,
some of these narratives on our own through our own
bro.
conclusions and our own research, analysis, and work. So yeah, I think this is a legit pod, and it's just only a matter of time before the rest of the world follows us. The way clearly some people in MSM media seem to be.
They got their spies on us, dog. Their spies on us for
That's
no
it,
reason.
man. They got that middle linebacker following the quarterback, dude.
Straight up.
That's the metaphorical equivalent.
Man, we appreciate y'all for tuning in, man. Week 18, man. We made it this far. Fantastic
Yeah,
season. Let's go into the playoffs. Let's have fun. Before y'all head out, make sure you like the stream, share, comment, everything in between.
yeah,
For y'all
man.
on the
Like
replay
and
gang,
subscribe.
appreciate y'all. Hey, man. Go Ravens, man. I gotta say it. I gotta say
Steelers, yo. Where we at here?
it. Let's
This is
go.
what's happening. This is what's happening today.
Hey, y'all see this? Y'all see this? Flock.
No, no, we can't see it because there
Number
ain't
five.
nothing to see. Ain't nothing to see.
Ain't nothing to see. Hey, we gonna see, man. One of us is gonna eat crow. We gonna be here next week. It's been
That's
and
it, man.
we
That's
out.
it, man.
I'm out.
All right, brother. One love to all.